Wayne Rooney sacked from Birmingham in what has to be one of the most embarrassing failed experiments in Championship history. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I simply have to talk about what on earth has happened at Birmingham City. Now, I've wanted to make a video on Wayne Rooney and his time at Birmingham for a while now, and every time I wanted to make a video it would progressively get worse and worse and worse, and you felt like surely he couldn't put Birmingham City in a position where the ownership had to completely backtrack on their big change, the big managerial change that of course had the entire football world talking, which was of course them sacking John Eustace and replacing them with Wayne Rooney when they were 6th in the Championship. And yet here we are. Birmingham City have pulled the plug on Wayne Rooney's dismal time at Birmingham City, into which we have witnessed one of the biggest experiments, misjudgments, whatever you want to call it. We've seen it backfire in possibly the biggest way possible, in which a group of brand new owners may have lost the trust in their fan base already, and one of the greatest footballers of our generation's managerial reputation might be destroyed forever. So Birmingham City hired Wayne Rooney when they were 6th in the Championship. John Eustace had guided Birmingham to 6th. They'd had 18 points from 11 games. And quite frankly, everyone's eyebrows were raised when they decided to make a change. And not a change as in bring in someone who was proven and even better than John Eustace. In some way where you can actually fathom that, okay, they've actually managed to upgrade on a manager who's got them in the playoffs, to maybe take them up that extra gear, to maybe assure a playoff finish. But it wasn't that. It was for Wayne Rooney, who of course is one of the most glorified players of a generation, but managerial career-wise, he is as mediocre as they come. Of course, Wayne Rooney did do relatively well at Derby County, almost keeping them up in what was an impossible situation with the points deduction they of course had a few seasons back, and unfortunately for them only just got them relegated. And even though it was a relegation on his CV, it was arguably one of the most spirited relegations you probably could see. However, there were plenty of people who still theorised that potentially Liam Rooney, the now manager of Hull City, who is doing very well there by the way, was in fact the more managerial mastermind behind the success at Derby, or relative success I guess compared to where they were, and Rooney was nothing but the face of the club who stood at the top in the manager's position. This was then possibly proven when he had a rather average and dismal time at DC United, before then being brought back to England. And of course the questions were asked, why on earth would you sack a manager who's got you in 6th? You instantly, no matter who the next guy comes in, you're giving them an impossible job to do, because he has to at least maintain them standards or surpass them. Otherwise, he's completely under pressure, and that's exactly what happened to Wayne Rooney from the get-go. Now, of course, you can argue he was put in an impossible situation. How on earth was he going to pick up a team who were already playing really well and take them to an even higher level? You know, you've got a team there who the last thing you want to do is disrupt the way things are going, and that's exactly what the ownership decided to do, and it didn't start well from the get-go. I was there in the very first game when they come to Riverside and lost 1-0, despite it being a narrow scoreline. Borough battered Birmingham that day and got their just rewards in the end, and it was clear to see that Wayne Rooney was trying to change something that ain't broke. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for no reason whatsoever, he was changing a winning side, and that of course was going to upset the apple cart, especially when it is believed the staff and the players who were there at the time were big fans of John Eustace, and I'm sure weren't too pleased of him leaving. They went on to lose their first 3, albeit a tough run of games against Hull City and Southampton. A spirited draw at home to Ipswich, where there was a glimmer of hope, and a good win at home to Sheffield Wednesday, who at the time were the worst team in the league. But since then, barring a 1-0 win away to Cardiff City, they've lost to Blackburn. They drew to Rotherham at home as well, which is equally as bad as a defeat. They lost to Coventry, Leicester, got points at Plymouth and Bristol City, but lost at home to struggling Stoke, and most recently away to Leeds United. And of course, the stats are grim reading for Wayne Rooney. In his time as Birmingham boss, he was in charge for 15 games, winning only 2. He drew 4, lost 9, scored 15 goals and conceded twice as many, conceding 30. And of course, as you know, he joined when they were 6th, 11 games, 18 points. He leaves them in 20th, 14 places lower, 26 games played, 28 points. That's 10 games in a 15-game spell, which is undoubtedly, if you look at the points per game, relegation form. So I guess you've got to just say that the owners have got to take this one on the chin, and at least they've made a decision, because they could have been like a lot of owners, and they could have been stubborn, and they could have stuck to their decision of quote-unquote no fear football that they branded the Wayne Rooney appointment with. But they haven't. They've took their medicine. I assume and hope they've learnt from their lesson from a Birmingham perspective, and they've realised that whatever decision they thought they were making, it's gone terribly wrong. And essentially, if they hadn't have made this decision, Birmingham were sleepwalking towards relegation. And if they'd have been relegated off the back of this appointment, and hell, they still might be, this will go down, and could go down, as one of the most suicidal, stupid and embarrassing managerial appointments in Championship English football history. You know, Birmingham have had years of mediocrity where they have barely, I don't think, finished above 17th for I don't know how many of the last few seasons. They were finally on the up. John Eustace finally had them playing really good football, and that's when they choose to pull the plug on him and bring in a manager who's far from unproven. It makes no sense now. It made no sense then. The only reason as to why I think they brought in Wayne Rooney was a marketing ploy. You know, these owners want to raise the profile of Birmingham City. Tom Brady's involved, of course, and they wanted a big name to be the face of the club. And I guess they naively assumed or hoped he could just carry on whatever John Eustace has done. But that's not how football works, guys. And especially when your new manager comes in and changes everything, you're only going to go backwards. The least Rooney should have done is just continue what Eustace was doing. And if he wants to implement his own tactics, just drop it in tiny little bits here and there, gradually over time. Don't transform the team overnight. So for me, this is on Rooney, it's on the owners. They have possibly bottled one of the best opportunities that they may have had to get themselves into the playoffs, and now might actually embroil themselves in a completely unnecessary relegation battle, which of course, if it ends in the worst way possible, I don't think the Birmingham fans will ever forgive their new owners. And the fact these new owners have come through the door only a few months ago, they could potentially destroy any trust or faith between them and the Birmingham City fans within months. And it all started so well. They'd revamped the stadium, they'd made the interior, the press conference, everything was looking great, everything was looking fantastic. We were all lauding the summer transfer business, saying that Birmingham had the best window in the league, and I stand by that, they did. So the owners have, there's pressing the self-destruct button, and then there is just unleashing a nuke on top of your own head, and that's the only possible metaphor I can describe for this. And at least, hopefully with the right appointment, Birmingham can now be guided away from this predicament they're in, and they can just take this one on the chin. In terms of rumoured appointments, I've seen Steve Cooper's name banded around, and listen, that would be an incredible appointment, and I think you could argue that going around the Wayne Rooney roundabout of whatever you want to call the last few months, in order to get Steve Cooper, if that's what they end up with following this horrid 3-month spell, that could actually be a blessing in disguise, although I would still be very surprised if Steve Cooper took that job. In fairness, there are rumours that John Eustace might come back. Now, I hope they're paying him a fortune, because he must have been sat on his sofa watching this all unfold with a grin as wide as a Cheshire cat. So I'm sure he'll come back through the door wanting the red carpet to be rolled out and apologies left, right and centre, and so he should. But it would be very commendable of John Eustace if he was to go back in there and get Birmingham back on track. But regardless, the owners simply have to get this next appointment right, because they need to rebuild the trust between them and the Birmingham fan base as soon as possible. And I think the final point to make in this video is an argument that has been bandied around quite a bit among football fans alike, and that is the managerial record of past England players or footballers who we once considered some of the best footballers of our generation. And this, I think, proves, along with many other managerial appointments, that a good player doesn't always make a good manager. And BBC put this fantastic table out of former England players who, let's say, haven't done great at their respective clubs. Steven Gerrard, I think his win percentage is held up massively by his spell at Rangers, and let's be fair, when you're in a league where you're only pretty much fighting one other club in the league and the other 10 pretty much 3 leagues behind you, it's not hard to have a good win percentage in Scotland. And his time at Aston Villa was absolutely awful. I think Frank Lampard's spell says it all. He did terribly at Chelsea, even worse at Everton. Gary Neville's, the less we speak of that, the better. And the only saving grace with Paul Scholes and Sol Campbell is they didn't play many games and manage many games for the respective clubs they managed. Wayne Rooney, however, he has managed 155 games as manager, 140, with a win percentage of only 25.8%, which relative to the others, the leagues they were in, the games they managed, is absolutely horrendous. So it could be safe to say this is the nail in the coffin of the short managerial career that is Wayne Rooney. At least it's not the final nail in the coffin for Birmingham City, and they still have plenty of time to get their season back on track. But that's my thoughts, guys, on this incredible, bonkers, suicidal. I mean, I just keep thinking of the meme or the gif where Sideshow Bob keeps walking into the rake and it keeps smacking himself in the face. That's what this feels like, but on a scale 100 times greater. It is incredible to see a football club who've been in such dire straits for so long finally get themselves in a great position and then screw it up as royally as this. But let's see who they get in and if they can turn this ship around. But do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are a Birmingham fan, a neutral fan, or a fan of any other club, and your thoughts on this appointment, what you think of Wayne Rooney overall as a manager. Do you think his career is over? And if you're a Birmingham fan, who do you reckon could be coming in? Who do you think could save your season? And if so, where do you still have hopes of finishing this season? Do you think you can get going towards the playoffs once again, or would you just be happy to stay in the league this season, which would be a damn shame given the start you guys had? But until then, a big thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, do hit the like button and subscribe. We do football, gaming, sports content here on the channel, so subscribe if you want to see more of this. But until next time, a big thank you for watching. Do take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.